Hello, friends. Unfortunately, many of us don't think about the fact that we don't value everyday things. Watching TV, going on social media, and using cell phones are all commonplaces to us. We can confidently say that we take these comforts for granted. All of this is commonplace, but at the same time, not everyone on our planet can eat well or even sleep in a comfortable and warm bed. We can talk about this topic forever, since everything is known in comparison. Today, I will tell you a story of the perseverance and willpower of a little man, for whom things that seem ordinary to us felt like unattainable dreams. You're about to find out exactly what came of his story. The hero of our story is Wang Fumin, an 8-year-old boy who lived in the Xinjiang province of China with his sister and grandmother. The boy was poor and had a hard life. He had to fight poverty every day. The stove barely worked. There was never enough food, and the cold wind blew inside the old house. The children didn't even have winter clothes, and they were always cold. This story took place a few years after Wang's mom left him and his sister. It's important to note that like any ordinary child, he loved his mom very much and couldn't understand why she did what she did. His dad, in turn, was forced to take a difficult job in the mountains and rarely saw his children. It so happened that the grandmother became the person who cared for and supported the two youngsters. But those were far from the family's only hardships. In order for Wang to get to school from his house, he had to hike 5 kilometers through the mountains. I think it goes without saying that this is a pretty serious challenge for a young boy, especially given the fact that the journey to school was often complicated by the weather's fickle character, especially in the winter and fall. But despite the distance and the cold, Wang understood that it was important for him to always make it to class. At school, he would be able to learn to read and write, and as a result, change his life for the better in the future. For each of us, it is probably hard to imagine a scenario in which a young boy is walking alone through a forest, especially when the 20-degree weather and strong gusts of wind make his journey even more difficult. Just the thought itself makes us uncomfortable. But our hero overcame such obstacles daily because despite his young age, he understood that his family was very poor and education was his only way out of poverty. Friends, it is likely that we would have never learned the name of this strong young man if at one point the whole world didn't start talking about him. His story traveled around the internet very quickly after the principal of the school published a picture of the boy right after he entered the classroom one morning. In the picture, Wang's head, eyebrows, and even eyelashes are completely covered in frost. His hair had literally become icicles. The cold turned his cheeks a bright red color, and his fingers were so frozen that they didn't obey the boy. Soon, the brave boy became known as Ice Boy online. What's most interesting is that the forecast predicted that the weather would be cold. Wang knew that he didn't have warm clothes, but even that couldn't stop the boy who yearned to learn. No matter the cost, he had to pass his exams, which of course he did. But he didn't just pass them, he also became world famous. Social media users were simply shocked by his actions. I think it goes without saying that many school children around the world do everything in their power to avoid taking tests and exams, but Wang did the exact opposite. The school principal later told journalists that he remembered that day to be one of the coldest. He knew that Wang lived far from school and was worried about how he would make it. Things were made even more difficult by the boy's chronic hypothermia, a disease caused by being constantly cold, because of which his hands swelled and fingers didn't listen. But the boy wasn't afraid. When he entered the classroom, nobody could believe their eyes. According to the principal, the boy's appearance was even more shocking in person than in the photo. He also noted that the school was poorly resourced, which meant that they didn't have heaters. The classrooms were very cold, and the kids wore their coats indoors. Of course, when the picture of the poor boy and the story of his desire to learn went viral, everyone felt sorry for him because he lived in such poverty. But they were also extremely touched by his perseverance. Many couldn't remain bystanders, and donations began coming in from all across the world. Wang's teacher said that Wang is a happy boy who smiles a lot and always tries to make his classmates laugh. He is convinced that Wang will achieve success because of his determination. Under Wang's circumstances, many people would have given up and accepted their fate, but not him. Friends, this is where Wang's story could have ended, but as you probably guessed, it was only the beginning. Thanks to his bravery and determination, he was able to not only warm up himself, but also to help other children in his area. Internet users could not ignore this boy, and in a matter of days, raised an unbelievable amount of money. To be exact, they raised over 3 million yuans, which is about $450,000. As a result of many media sources writing about Wang, his school received donations of $15,000, 30 heaters, and 150 sets of warm clothes for the students. But even this wasn't the end. Because tens of thousands of people shared the story on social media, it ended up reaching the government, whose members were so touched by the boy that they invited him to Beijing. That's where he was able to truly warm up for the first time in his life. Beijing gave Wang a warm and hospitable welcome. There, he received new winter clothes and saw the sights of the city. He spoke with high-ranking officials and gave numerous interviews to journalists. Other than that, the boy enjoyed his first airplane ride and a trip in a modern train. Even though these were new experiences, they weren't what surprised the ice boy the most. You will probably be shocked, but what surprised him the most is something that we take for granted. In Beijing, Wang touched a warm generator for the first time. He said that he couldn't believe that in Beijing, people took off their coats indoors. His house was always very cold. At night, his family had to burn coal and sleep in coats to keep warm. In Beijing, he wore only a thin t-shirt indoors and didn't feel cold. For him, it was a real miracle because it's something that he experienced for the first time. According to him, heating is magical. The brave and dedicated boy was received in Beijing like a dear guest. He drove in a police car, fired shots at the shooting range, tried rock climbing, and even wore a uniform of a law enforcement officer. The almost $500,000 donated by caring people went towards equipping the school with a heating system. In addition, the Ice Boy's house, as well as those other poor families in the village, became warm. They received large-scale repairs, during which modern equipment and other things necessary for a comfortable living were installed. Wang couldn't believe it, since walking around the house without a coat was very unusual for him. The boy couldn't hold back his tears when talking about how greatly his life had changed. The young but mature beyond his years, Wang Fumin, said that he is grateful for everyone's help and support. He said that when he grows up, he will do something that benefits the world and will repay everyone. A simple photo of a purposeful, brave, and courageous boy changed the lives of many. Other than Wang Fumin, the principal also takes pictures of other school children who live in difficult conditions and publishes them online. He wants to show that even under such life circumstances, children value knowledge and education. Those children deserve admiration. Wang Fumin showed the world that with hard work, discipline, determination, and willpower, you can overcome any obstacles and undoubtedly achieve your goal. Friends, what do you personally think of this purposeful boy, who at only 8 years old takes life so seriously? Make sure to comment. Bye.